This is GrantTalk, hosted by Libby Hikind, founder and CEO of GrantWatch and author of The Queen of Grants.
Hi, everybody. I'm Libby Hikind. I'm the founder and CEO of GrantWatch.com, and I'm your host today on GrantTalk. With me today is Jessica Lewis, and she is from the Tampa Bay Estuary Program.
Hi.
And what we want to know today is what happens once your grant is submitted. So, Jessica, tell us.
Sure. It just goes into cyberspace and we never see it again. No.
That's what some people think.
Right. Yeah. So once a grant is submitted to us, I, as the staff person, I review to make sure the basic requirements have been met with an application. And our grants are actually selected or reviewed by our Community Advisory Committee. So this is a committee made up of people who live in our watershed, in the Tampa Bay watershed. They review each of the applications that come in. They score them according to a rubric that the applicants have already been provided. And then they make recommendations to our executive director. Our executive director then takes it to our policy board, who approves those recommendations or, has thoughts on it if they don't want to approve all of them. So it's a sort of a tiered system of review, but it starts with people who live, work, and play in our watershed that actually review it.
About how many applications do you receive?
Each year, somewhere between 30 and 40 applications, and we probably fund around 20 of those. Our grants are up to $5,000 per project, so it just depends on if everyone requested $5,000, we might fund a fewer number of applications, but if not everyone wanted the full amount, then we might be able to fund more projects.
So what's the first evaluation by the community members? What are they looking for?
Yeah, so we have an entire criteria selection. So the number one thing that they're looking for is how the project will improve Tampa Bay, and the clarity of the proposal, and then the community aspect of it. So our Bay Mini Grants is what the program is called. They are focused on environmental education and environmental restoration, kind of any kind that impacts the Tampa Bay watershed. What we want to see is how is the community being engaged? Is it something where the community has been built into it from the beginning? So, for instance, if you're going to plant marsh grass around a stormwater retention pond that's in a neighborhood, is the neighborhood association part of the project? Are the people who live there part of the project? If not, that might be like an orange flag, maybe not quite a red flag, but it's definitely an area that can be approved upon. And then how are they being engaged? Are they given the opportunity to help with planning the project itself? Are they only helping with, for instance, planting that marsh grass? Or are they just being engaged with like a passive educational sign? So knowing how the community is involved in any of the projects are probably the number one thing that we look for.
And our listeners and viewers, this is important. Community support for any grant is utmost importance, because then people want to fund you. It's not a one and done. It's not something that you thought about while taking a shower and you wrote an application for. You really went about and got everybody engaged. That's very important. Okay, so that's the first stop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there any other eligibility that's important?
Sure. It has to be, for us, it has to be within our watershed. So we are a pretty big area. We have a specific map that provides the outline for our watershed, but it consists of about 5 counties and many cities within those counties. A few different river basins as well. So the project.
Can I ask you which counties?
Yeah, sure. So Pinellas County, parts of Pinellas County, Pasco, Manatee, and a little bit of Polk County, and then the entire Hillsborough County. We've actually got a little sliver of Sarasota County as well, too. So
a lot of people have never heard of those counties that come to Florida for vacation.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people have heard of Tampa Bay, but they don't know like that's in Hillsborough County and Pinellas
Right.
County, for instance. Yeah, for sure. So having some sort of impact on Tampa Bay, a positive impact, hopefully, and engaging people who live or work or play in Tampa Bay is really important too. Some of the other eligibility criteria are that they must be an eligible entity. So they can be a nonprofit, they can be a business, they can be a school or any kind of educational institution, and even some governments are eligible as well. So, kind of any kind of entity that has a functioning tax ID number that can receive funds is eligible for the Bay Mini Grant.
So when somebody has an idea of how to fix things, and they're not any of those, they should bring the application to one of those, correct? And work with
Sure.
them.
Yeah, or what we really encourage people to do is to reach out to us directly. If you have that in the shower idea, for instance, and you're not sure what to do with it, you can literally submit a project concept on our website, or you can just call us or email us and say, I have this idea, I don't know what to do next. And I will say, that's either a great idea, I think you should bring it to one of these partners that we've worked with in the past, or find a new partner that might be really good to work with. Or it might not fit within the kind of stuff that we're doing, and at least you haven't wasted too much time trying to figure that out. So I think what may be different about our program than some other grant making programs is that we have a very face-to-face relationship with our grantees and with our awardees, and even applicants that don't get the awards too.
Can you explain to our listeners what the Tampa Bay Estuary actually is?
The way I describe an estuary is where the rivers meet the sea. So you've got fresh water coming into the bay, and you've got the Gulf of Mexico bringing that salt water in, and that is what the Tampa Bay Estuary is. It's this really unique habitat where we have a diversity of wildlife, and because it's Tampa Bay, we have a diversity of people. We have a diversity of industry. We are a fairly urbanized watershed, so we've got a lot of people in a very dense area. The Tampa Bay Estuary Program is our organization. We are part of the national network of national estuary programs. We're one of 28, I believe, programs that are throughout the U.S., and we're mostly funded through the EPA, but we're sort of like a local government entity, and we also have many partners. So we partner with Hillsborough County, Pasco, Pinellas, and Manatee counties, City of St. Petersburg, Tampa, Clearwater, and then many, many different agency and nonprofit partners too.
So you partner with a lot of people, and you want the applicants to partner as well, so that this is total engagement to make things
For
right
sure.
in the world, and that is really great. When it goes, I want to go back for a minute. It went through the community support, and now it takes the next step. Who are those people? that
So
are
the
gonna
next
review?
step in review is what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Community Advisory Committee reviews and then provides recommendations to our executive director. He reviews those recommendations, comes up with his own thoughts, which almost always align pretty exactly with the Community Advisory Committee.
Pretty good. You have great
Right.
volunteers.
Yeah, for sure. They're very thorough. Like they definitely catch things that we don't, even as staff sometimes. And the executive director then takes those recommendations to our board, who has to be consulted in many of our funding programs. So they will approve or deny. I don't think they've ever denied, but sometimes deny the projects that our director has recommended.
Okay, so now let's go back to the community, because they're very important. They play a very large role in this. Okay, so now the community's looking for an entity that's on your list. They're looking for engagement. But what is it that they're going to discard an application for? What have you seen?
So if it's not well organized, if it's really hard to figure out what you're trying to do, that can certainly be a reason to not get funded. If it isn't laid out clearly and in a sort of really easy to review manner, that's definitely a problem, because it sort of conveys that maybe you haven't thought it through enough to get to the level stage of funding. Sometimes it can be so simple as like the budget doesn't add up, so you haven't double checked your math, for example. So that's a pretty common issue, and it's always those little details that tend to get you.
And it's confusing for the reader if you don't have the needs, the goals, the objectives, activities, evaluation, budget. If it doesn't all line up, the
Right.
person's lost as they're reading it. Like,
Right.
why are they asking for this in the budget? They never even mentioned it in the narrative.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you make it hard for volunteers to review a grant application, then you might not be ready for funding. But some other things that can happen is, for instance, you are planning some sort of project in a community, but you haven't engaged that community in any way. So not providing letters of support, for instance, could be an issue. Or mentioning a partner in the project, but not having any indication that that partner actually knows that you're listing them in an application.
Right. So that would be either a letter of support or a memorandum of understanding that needs to be submitted.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So those are probably some top issues with applications.
And, HOAs, they have their own board, and if you're going to involve an HOA, you really have to get their approval before you just think you're committing them to it. Well, why wouldn't they want to do this or that? But
Right.
it doesn't work that way.
Right. For sure.
So there's a lot of planning involved. When is your next grant application available?
Sure. The Bay Mini Grant Program applications can be submitted between May 8th and September 13th this year. We expanded that application period this year for the first time to just give people more time for that planning. So making the announcement a little bit earlier so they can take those shower ideas and turn them into an actual functional plan that will lead to a successful project.
So how did you get involved in this?
That is a great question. My background is very nonlinear to get to this point. I started as a marine biologist, but then went into community organizing around specific environmental and social justice issues. I worked in legislative policy for a while and field biology, and eventually found out about this position from one of our executive team who mentioned that they might be hiring. And I started in a position that wasn't a great fit for me here, but I knew that I wanted to work with the organization. So I sort of toughed that out a little bit, I guess, and now it's come to a point where I'm managing a couple of our grant programs, doing a little bit of community outreach, and some of our technical research side as well. So I get to do a little bit of everything, which I like.
So what impact have you seen as a result of some of the grants?
Well, we have done, I should pull up the actual statistics for you, but we've done a wealth of outreach. So that is the biggest part of the Bay Mini Grant Program, is just bringing people sort of under the tent, under the umbrella of caring about the Tampa Bay Estuary and changing their behavior to improve or at least not harm the Tampa Bay Estuary and the environment. So we've seen just a ton of that. We've got over 200 different entities that have been funded over the last, I think, 15 years that this program has been going on. So it's a lot of people that are learning from people who are in their community about these issues. We've also seen a ton of invasive plant removal, for example. So taking Brazilian pepper, which is highly invasive, out of the environment, replacing it with something that's a native plant, whether that is marsh grass or mangrove or some sort of upland species like pine trees and oak trees, that sort of thing. So a ton of actual restoration has happened because of this project too. So I think those are the biggest impacts, is people are learning and hopefully becoming part of the solution too. And then there's the actual restoration that's happening within the estuary as well.
Is there a project that stands out in your mind that was funded that you really like, wow, we did this?
Yeah, for sure. There's, I'll tell you about two different projects. So one is a simple rain garden at a Sanderlin Community Center, which is in South St. Pete here in Pinellas County of Tampa Bay. The League of Women Voters were the project managers there, and they decided they wanted to work with the community center, which brings together a huge diversity of people, both in age, in race, in income level. All kinds of people use this community center, and turning a ditch into a rain garden. So not only is it engaging people from that community center, there's also a school right across the street. So they created a program where it's sort of like a hide and go seek kind of thing, where they give them a list of species, the kids a list of species that they can go and find in the rain garden. They learn what the function of that plant is, or why it's important to retain water before it leaches out to Tampa Bay in the form of stormwater. And they also learn about the pollinators that are in that rain garden too. In Tampa Bay, nutrient pollution is our number one water quality problem. So our number one source of nutrient pollution is stormwater. So if we can slow rain down before it takes all those pollutants and goes to Tampa Bay, that is one of the solutions to the nutrient problem in Tampa Bay. And they're doing that on a really small scale by turning what was a ditch that would just gather water, flow directly into Tampa Bay after not much time. They're slowing that water down, they're letting it absorb, they're letting those nutrients feed all the plants that are growing there. So they've really done an amazing job there.
I love it. What's the next one?
Yeah, so this other one was pretty unique. It was Eckerd College is one of the universities here in Tampa Bay. They took wildlife cameras, or trap cameras as they're sometimes called. They put them at different locations on Fort DeSoto, which is a county beach here in Tampa Bay, and they wanted to see what they would see to sort of record what species are in different areas on that barrier island. But they also had an interactive part of it where you could go up to the trap camera. There was a QR code and you could scan what you had seen, but you could also see what had been seen in that camera. So it was a really cool sort of semi-research, interactive, participatory science aspect to it as well. The students who were involved in that project also learned a little bit about coding and website development to put all this stuff online. So it was a really unique, interesting way to bring together the technical, the community outreach on one of our barrier islands.
And both these programs are replicable in other states, other locations across the country. And that's
Certainly.
what's very important when you write a proposal. Now we're talking about it here. Somebody's listening. They can model it. They can get in touch with you, and they can use it in an application somewhere else. And that's what we want to see when we look at grants, right?
For sure, yeah. And for us at the Estuary Program, one of our sort of key tenets, part of our ethos, I guess, is open science, which basically means data should be available to everyone. It should be fair, so findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. So if you have a project that meets those criteria as well, that's even better, so that you're exactly right. So somebody can take that sort of project, replicate it, make it their own in their own watershed or in their own backyard, and have it be successful there too.
And they can refer to your project. Here's the data from your project, and just move it on and on. I
Right.
talk about that in the book a lot. How are you going to disseminate it? Is it replicable? And how are you going to sustain it after the funding runs out? all things
Right.
that belong in a proposal, right?
Right, and just learning from past mistakes, like zeros are data too, and mistakes are allowed to happen. But especially if you can turn those lessons learned into something that's even more successful down the road, I think that's even better for everybody.
So how do people get in touch with you?
They can go to our website to start with. It's Tampa Bay Estuary Program, so TBEP.org. Or they can reach out to us directly via email or phone call, and all of that contact information is on our website too.
Great. It is such a pleasure to speak with you. And we're going to post your grant.
Great.
And we have in the past, and I hope that's been very successful for you. And if more people apply, there'll be more grants funded, I guess. So let's hope and continue to clean up what our Earth, because we need it. We hope to be on Earth for many, 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 many light years to come, right?
Right. Yeah. And last but not least, I just want to say that you don't have to be an environmental organization to be part of this program. In fact, for example, the League of Women Voters is not an environmental organization. We would love to work with even more people that may not directly identify as environmentalists, who maybe just want to test out a project and see how it goes. So I definitely encourage people to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much. It's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to GrantTalk, powered by GrantWatch. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this GrantWatch channel. Please consider subscribing to GrantWatch.com, and you can find the book, The Queen of Grants, by going to GrantWatch.com/book. Thank you again for spending your time with us.